Everyone have a little shufty. We should include these bits in the edits of us just being like before we start. Okay, right. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Blame It on Marketing with Emma and Ruta. That was a very excited Ruta there in the middle. Well, she's muted herself. She's being too keen.
Isn't it? I was going to say, having my first coffee and I'm ready to go.
She's ready to go. And today we are joined by an extra special. I was about to call you a guest judge.
Ooh, what
Like
are we doing
like
today?
we're hosting X Factor or something.
Only like, listen, my agenda is free next week. I could be there.
She's ready. Juliana's ready. So we are going to be talking about probably one of the most annoying things that is said to marketers, or one of. It's definitely up there, I reckon, in the top 5, and that is "make it pop." That
The deadly.
phrase that we all dread. And we met the fabulous Juliana at the Belfast marketing meetup, and we had the confessions board, and Juliana wrote that on the confessions board, and then we were very intrigued. So we were like, not only do we need to chat, but we need to have a full-on podcast episode about this. So, Juliana, over to you. Please introduce yourself to our wonderful audience.
So, hi everybody, I'm Juliana from Yellow Zest. We are based here in Belfast. We're a creative digital marketing agency, and we do a little bit of everything, but our core services would be like your branding, which I absolutely love, your web design, and your social media. I'm also a business advisor with Go Succeed, which is a program that helps businesses to get started. So, like if you're thinking about having a business or shifting your business, hit us up. Very good. Founder of East Belfast Business Meetup, which is a meetup once a month for entrepreneurs locally to get together and just support each other, have a chat, have a pint, is in a local brewery. So, yeah, hi.
It's lovely. I'm so sad we're too far away.
Oh, next meetup, like the next big marketing meetup, like we'll
Yeah,
give a shout out to Trina. Yo, Trina, we need an
I
extra.
know. I think I think Belfast might have to just accept us as like permanent residents at some point. We might have to move.
There's a
Yeah,
space. There's a
we love
space.
it. We love it. So before we dig into Make It Pop, could you please share with us your marketing confessions or something that you've royally effed up in your career?
I know. Like I was debating telling that. I was just like, oh, is that too much of a confession? Like, is that going to be like detrimental to my career? But you know what? It is funny and like we learn with those type of things. So here I was. Okay. So like we do like email marketing for companies but like our target are exactly SMEs. So we were doing this campaign for a very long time and everything was fine. Designed the email, looking perfect. Now, mind you, that email list had about like 3,000 people. So for a small business, that is actually quite substantial, right? And that was fine. And then we had a link redirecting the reader, like the customer, to buy the event. It's fine, everything perfect. I then copied the URL, came to paste the URL onto the button, which I had beautifully generated, pasted, send the email, off we go. Sent first to the business owner. Approved, yes. Ready to go, sent. Then a few minutes later, I get a phone call from the client being like, Juliana, the link is something completely unrelated. It is a skincare mask. And I was just like, what? Now, mind you, this is a restaurant. And I was just like, what do you mean? It's a skincare mask? And he was just like, yeah, you pasted the wrong address. And I was just like, no, humanly impossible, because like immediately before I pasted like the URL, I was at the event page, everything was working, but of course I must have not selected and pressed Ctrl+C properly. Something was in my clipboard, pasted that, sent away, and I did check if the link was working, but I didn't check until the full screen opened. I just like pasted, like yeah, clicked, the whole page started loading up, and I was just like, happy days close. And then I was just like, oh, like I knew they had to be brought to like an emergency room, because like as you know, like when we work with those type of things, our heart just goes through the roof and you're like,
Yeah.
what is going on here? And of course I had to like reissue like an apology. The client saw the funny side of it and that was that, but it taught me a very, very large, like big lesson. Don't wait
Chocolates.
to load. Don't get out before you see the whole thing. And I was just like, oh. But you know what?
Yeah. Okay.
Both of us.
Your client is very good. Also, it's like it's one of those things where, to be honest with you, thank God it was just a face mask.
Can you
Do you know what I
imagine?
mean?
Can you
Like,
imagine?
A story where someone did the same thing, but it was a link to like a zoo day out, I think, because they were looking at
yeah,
like things to do with their kids, and we're like, that's not bad. I'm okay with that. I could
I
have a
wouldn't
little
be
something.
mad.
You know, the things we look online, do you know what I mean? It could have been so much worse. It could be like a gossip on something. It could be something really unrelated. But it was a face mask, do you know, like the salmon, like the stuff that is really hyped up, and like she was lovely, and you know. Like we are just laughing at it today, but like at the moment, right there and then, you feel so responsible, and you feel so like, oh my goodness, what have I done? Clearly, it was an accident. It wasn't meant to be that way. But here, big confession. Don't hold that against me. I do check my links.
Oh my God. I mean, I think it's definitely one of those ones that's in the marketing handbook, right? It's like if you don't do it, do you even work in marketing? So I
Right.
think you're safe, Juliana.
Absolutely.
I've been
So,
baptized. I've been
yeah,
baptized.
there
You
it is.
have.
Email is like one of the most common confessions when we do like the big confession boards. So you are not alone by any stretch of the imagination.
Good. I feel accepted. I feel understood.
You are, yeah, part of the church of blame it on marketing. So let's get into the main topic. I mean, it sort of does my head in just even thinking about this conversation. But where the hell does the kind of make it pop comment come from? Juliana, obviously you wrote it on the confession board, but share if you can
What
share
does
a
it mean?
story. What does it even mean?
So here's the thing, right? Whatever, like whenever we were the event, the conference, I saw that and I was just like, listen, there's one thing. And then I wrote, when the client says make it pop, and then it drew an arrow and it said like, what the hell is pop? And that is where it comes from, because pop isn't really an adjective. Like, I mean, you can say like, make it bigger, make it smaller, make it brighter, make it darker. All of those things are actionable things. Pop isn't one of them. So but the story is really, I was designing this website, designed multiple websites before. Everything was going to plan. The briefing was great. Like the form that they have to fill with like all of the copy, like perfect. And I kept going, kept going, and eventually had designed essentially 80% of the website before I actually sat down with the client. And then every single website I had done before, perfect. Everybody was just like happy dandy, like no, not a lot of like things to change. And I thought
Hmm.
like this is going to be no different. Everything's going to so smooth. Like we understood like the references, happy days, and then we get there and the client says like yeah, it's just not doing it for me. Can you make it pop? And I was just like,
Uh-oh.
what is pop? And he was just like, it's just, it's a bit, it's not. And that was a call, and there was a lot of this, and then I was just like, oh my god, pop plus this, like, so moving hands and being like, it isn't much to go from. Do you know what I mean? So I said like, right, okay, let us revisit the briefing, let's think some things through, and then I generated a very, very, very large and long feedback form, which I had, but this was usually towards the end of the project in a way that it would have done better rather than like, let's improve the systems here, right there now. And so, yeah, we had to then go away, design all of that, and then sit down with the client again. And only after both of us were really happy with the briefing, that's when we could like go on. But pop, it wasn't the first time that I heard that. Like I heard other times, but like that particular time, because of the lack of like extra information, that was the one that like really got to me. And I was just like, oh, pop is literally the worst thing ever.
We
Not surprised. It's that horrifying thing, isn't it? Especially when, for example, in your example with the website there and the design thing, it's like we can only work within your brand guidelines. So
Mm-hmm.
like if you have brand guidelines and you're very strict with your brand in particular, like a lot of businesses are, we can
Mm-hmm.
only work with what we've got. We're
Yeah,
not magicians. And we also don't, also, if we haven't been commissioned to do a brand redesign or even a refresh with new elements to it, there's only so much we can do, right?
exactly. And I think there's a huge misconception in the web design world, which is you're the copywriter, you're the social media manager, you are the graphic designer, you are the developer, you are all in one. And you're like, no, guys, I'm literally not. Like in the scheme of things, my role, it's very now we offer these other things. It can be part of the project, but whenever we quote, we're not quoting for all of that. I think in that particular case, it was a bit of like lack of understanding of what the role actually is and what we can do with the tools we have. For example, I think like he said, it was a bit flat in terms of like animations after we talked that through. But coming from a web design perspective, the more animations you have, the slower your website is. And, like some people hate animations, all of those things going left, right, and center are very distracting. So we tend to reduce the amount of animations we have. So that's that.
Yeah.
SEO don't like it either.
Yeah. I think as well, like, unless you're in the quite technical world, you won't know that there is reasons why sometimes we don't have animations, or we put text out quite plainly because it needs to be readable. Like there's performance limitations. But I think the other thing that this just immediately makes me think of, so this weekend I went wedding dress shopping with my high school best friend, and she tried on this dress. Her sister was like, oh, I don't like it. And I was like, okay, why don't you like it? Do you not like the lace? Do you not like the color? Do you not like it how it fits her? She's like, no, I just don't like it. And it's just bad feedback. It's feedback to do nothing with. And I think if you're giving feedback like that, it's going to be hard to work together. And I feel like people need to be sometimes coached on how to give good feedback. It sounds like what you did with your client.
Oh, 100%. And sometimes it's like you said, there's a bit of like a bit of, because they don't do this day in and day out, if that is not your bread and butter, like you don't understand, like you just go like, I don't like it. It's very easy when you go shopping for clothes for yourself. You go like, I like this and I don't like that, out. It's fine. It works on your day-to-day lives, but it doesn't work with like collaborative creative process. It doesn't. If you are going to do that yourself, then you have that thing, yeah, I don't like that, and you don't need to really justify. But when you're working with somebody else and using somebody else's skills, communication is very important. And I feel that sometimes people walk into the design of a branding or of a website and they don't know themselves what they like. That's why the briefing is so important. That's why the references are so important, because even the questions and asking them to go and search will make them think about, oh yeah, I see that here and I like it because of that, or I don't like that at all because of this and that. But pop is literally the worst. Please don't use a pop, or use a pop but like follow with like make it pop by doing this.
Yeah.
This. And the thing is also is the lack of understanding that, especially with like web design, when we add all of those fancy things, that's often code. So you're then adding a whole other layer to the design. It's not just like, oh, let's drag here and let's drag there. Let's literally open the CSS and just like go there and do a lot of code, which is very time demanding. And then when the person doesn't even know if they're going to like it, that is when you're definitely not going to be trying your hand and be like, oh, I've spent like this last 2 hours doing this bit of thing. Do you like it? And you're like, no, make it pop it again. And like, no.
That's why it's what you're reminding me of, Juliana, is that there is a step in the process where, like, for example, if you're going to, I always think it's like a commission, right? You're commissioning a new website or even just anything brand related. If you're not prepared as a senior person to actually commit the time to brief properly, to be invested in the process, to take the time to understand the steps in the process. Like, for example, like, with a website design, there will be a wireframe, there will be a design round, there will be a feedback opportunity. Like these are kind of standard steps and processes in that build process.
Yeah.
So if you as a senior person are like, I know we need to do this, but I haven't quite got the time, that is not the right time to take on that project, because like you said, it is a collaborative process. We do have to have conversations. We do have to have feedback rounds. We have to have these things, because otherwise we end up at the end of it with the make it pop comments. So I feel like that probably goes up for both of us, really. That's that's like kind of like, it's a problem for senior leaders in particular who want to do these things, but it's also a problem maybe on our side as well, because I think, like some of these, what we consider to be quite established steps in a process might not feel like that for them. So like I'm just interested in your perspective on that side. Like what could we be doing better maybe to bring those people on board who maybe haven't been through a design process before?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. Moving away so much from the website, we're talking about branding a little bit now. It's so important that whenever you hire somebody, you need to, or I like to say that to my clients, you need to understand, why did you come to us? Why us and why not somebody else? Why this agency versus that agency? You need to trust the professional. And to be able to pass that, like, you need to always, as a marketeer, somebody that works in that collaborative process, I always find that if I establish, I'm not going to say authority because, like, I hate that word, but like if you establish, like, hey, I am actually doing this because, like, there is thought behind it. Like, I am not doing this because I think so, because I find it pretty. I am doing this because I am a qualified professional. I'm doing this because I've done loads of times before. I'm doing this because, like, it's evidence based that is the best guided way. Now, it's always like we are building onto something. It's not just like follow what I'm saying and you have no contribution to it. But like, I think like in our side is always establishing, hey, trust that we know what we are doing. I think like if you get somebody that is very bogged down in sales or finance, they want to see not so much finance, but sales in particular. They want to see the logo everywhere. And then you have to be like, hey, having your logo everywhere isn't necessarily the best approach. Like people get desensitized after a while. Can we sit down and like have a conversation and explain, like, we actually have done this before. We know what we are doing. Can you trust us with the process? We've got you. We ultimately have your best interest in mind. We are not creating something here for us to find pretty and put it on the wall. We are creating something here to convert and generate revenue for you. Ultimately, that is our goal. So hold my hand while I hold yours and let's go let's go with it. But like, I think like definitely explaining the process really clearly, having open lines of communication. I think like leveling expectations at the beginning of the project, like you said, and being like, hey, you're embarking onto this with me, happy days, but you will need a number of hours to review what we send, to contribute with what we are sending, with what we are telling you, to give constructive feedback, not a two-word and be like, I like it, I don't. So I think at the beginning of the process, that's quite important.
I think that is like the cherry, not even the cherry, it's the basics, but like the cherry on top is actually going back to the person who's asked you to redo their website and be like, hey, I'm going to need like 20 hours from you in this process. Are you good for that for the next 6 weeks? And they're like, what do you mean? 20 hours for this process? That's crazy. Or not. They're like, yeah, cool. Like, that's totally fine. I think setting that expectation, it's probably super duper helpful because it's like a really quick and dirty way to be like, I'm going to need you, and not just like to respond to an email here. It's more than that. But do we think that any other departments get asked to make it pop?
Ooh.
I guess if you're a developer and you are working on the product and you're working on the bit of the product that's, well, I mean, let's be honest, like if you're a tech product, it's going to be about what it looks like, and it's going to be about the user flow and the journey and those sorts of things, and those things are sometimes more important than the way it looks. But I think the way it looks factors in quite heavily for people because it's a very easy thing to fixate on. I don't know if you guys would agree, but I also think when people struggle to give constructive feedback about something that's quite deep and meaningful, maybe they don't understand the level of technicality involved in a product or whatever it is, or a website, they will go for what it looks like because it's something that they feel like is within their reach. I don't know if you guys would agree.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think visual things are inherently, they almost like allow people to have feedback, if that makes sense, instead of like, let's say like reading a 300-page document, like someone's not just going to be like, oh yeah, change that bit, but when it's something like face, I think feedback is easy to give. Not good feedback, but just feedback of some sort is easy to give. I don't know if that's the experience that you have, Juliana.
Yeah, like I before I did this whole thing, like my last corporate role was in clothing manufacturing here, large clothing manufacturing here in Northern Ireland, and I was import export, right? Not very related to marketing, but that's what I did. And I always found that, like, yes, marketing had a huge input of like, yes, not input, but like people felt that they could give a lot of input into the marketing department, but also in the design department. side of things. I think like when you're doing something that is physically that you can see, the product development also gets like it's like you said, like Emma, like it also gets a lot of feedback. I don't like this, and then I don't like the way that this pen like closes that way. And I find that it's not just marketing. I feel that like it's across the board, and it's just I do think the feedback is very important. Popping things is very important. Ultimately, we all want everything to pop. The issue really is on the feedback and how to accept and how to gather feedback and how to interpret feedback. And just coming back on what you were saying, Ruta, about the number of hours, I had a couple of occasions where people were about to have a baby and they wanted to have this website open going before the baby came, but it was like at the last second of the last minute. And I was just like, hey, I don't think like right now it's the best time for you to be taking on this project, precisely because of that collaborative process. We are going to have so many meetings and so many time, so many like different like emails back and forth. Right now, perhaps your priority won't be that, and that is fine. And it is hard though. Sometimes you do want the work. Sometimes you do want like to, it's an interesting project. You want to throw yourself at it. But I think there's a little bit of wisdom as well to source the client and be like, hey, I think like right now you are not in the best position to provide the level of engagement we actually need. You're going to end up like seeing a lot of pop and we don't want that. So let's pause it until you are in a better situation, and we will be back here and we can revisit, we can sit down and start from there. But I think like it's hard being like, oh, see you later. You're the person is like, hey, it's for you, and you're like, not now, I've learned the hard way, like not now. But like yeah, like I feel that in the world of marketing it's very easy to get tangled if you don't have processes. And the lessons I've learned both with like with Elemental, like I mean basic email, like that went out with like a face mask, basic. It was a process that I skipped. And the same thing with bringing that client up to 80% of the project. It was a process that I had, but I've implemented far too late. And I think like in marketing, especially if you own your own business, there's a lot of like trying and learning, being baptized, like we were saying at the beginning, and then coming back and be like, hey, I think like I gotta revisit this here and improve it. What do you guys think? Like what was that
Yeah.
process for you guys that like you're like, oh, this process changed my life?
I think the website thing is really important actually. I think we've both been on the receiving end from both sides of being the people designing the websites, building the websites, and then also implementing them in-house and things like that. And at the moment it's really interesting because I am just one of my clients were about to do a website refresh, and at the moment I'm currently leading on the project, but the VP of marketing and I are working really closely together because we need to refresh the website. We've got new messaging that needs to go out, and we also want to do it in a particular way because we have got some good SEO, we have got some good traction with this website, so we're not going to rebuild it.
No.
And the nice thing about that is the VP of marketing and I are taking our time to write the brief, to plot out what we think the timelines are. So when we go out and we get because our agency or our freelancer or our web dev, whoever we work with, we are going to be it's going to be a really considered brief that those people get. And essentially, because we both between us have enough knowledge to say this is the way we want the website done, we will only work with somebody who wants to work to our process and our timeline.
Yeah.
And that is a culmination of bad experiences, I think, to be honest with you. And yeah, I'm excited to actually, I suppose, be part of a website project that I feel like is actually going to be managed properly for once.
Yeah, I think we're talking about websites a lot, but I think also we've definitely been through this with like design of assets,
Yeah.
books, the like. And yeah, it always comes down to somebody has a specific vision for the thing. They're probably not on the marketing team. They're probably like somebody senior, and they don't articulate what that is. And then by the time you show them the thing, they're like, oh, no, this is not what it's meant to look like. And that's always just a really horrible position to be in, because it means that you basically spend another however many hours in redesign to get it there. And usually it's not changes that are like, what's the word? they're not changes that will improve the performance of the thing. They are personal preferences. And yeah, we've been through that
My
a
God.
bajillion times. Like, it's the standard thing that happens. So having a good process around that is really hard, but it's essential to understand what those personal preferences are.
One of the things that kills me at the moment as well, and this happened not that long ago, was just doing a pitch deck or helping say write a sales pitch deck. And there were obviously some new design elements included in this pitch deck, but within the brand guideline, but it was something that we were asked for very quickly that needed to be need reiteration and stuff and evolution as it went on, because it's a sales pitch deck. And the CRO in question just put it into ChatGPT and sent me the ChatGPT feedback. And I was like, I can't do anything with this, because this isn't actually, I mean, it's beyond subjective feedback. It's like, it's not even your view, it's the view of ChatGPT on what I've done. So yeah, things like that at the moment are an absolute killer for me, because that's actually, to me, that's even worse than make it pop, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Because, like, in the end of the day, the person has their own reasons to want it to make it pop. That's fair. Like, we all want things to pop, but ChatGPT is the worst. Like, it literally, like, it's coming back to what I said. Why did you come to us? If you're so confident that ChatGPT knows so much, and don't get me wrong, I love it. Use it every day. Fantastic tool. Couldn't do without it, but not for that type of thing. And it makes you so like, gosh, all of these years of learning and experience and practice are now being questioned and completely disregarded because like AI said so. And you can't even, there's not much to argue, because if the person goes there already, there's no bringing that person back in a sense. Like, I mean, you can argue, you can list your reasons why, but it will always be like ChatGPT knows best, and they're like,
I
it's
mean,
so
you can kind of combat that a little if you get nerdy with them on how ChatGPT works, because they
yeah.
probably know if they're asking ChatGPT to give you design feedback. So you could get a little there, but yeah, it's a really hard thing, and it's also, I personally find it quite lazy and disrespectful. If I've put
Mm,
effort work and you are going to shove it in ChatGPT, not even a good model, and ask it for for feedback, I'm like, this
I
is
know.
Especially
not it.
especially if then, like, so for example, in this case, so it went back and forth, and it literally was like chat GPT feedback after chat GPT feedback.
That's awful.
Chat GPT restructuring the whole deck. So I was like, well, if that was the case, you didn't need me. If that's what you wanted, you didn't need me. And I 100% pushed back with that and was like, I can't do anything with this feedback, so I'm going to step out of the process. Now, obviously, like, I go in, I'm a fractional at this point, so I'm not a member of the team. So like, any disciplinary conversation is going to be very much like, bye.
I know.
But to me, like, my reputation as a marketer is to act ethically and with integrity. So if I'm not doing that, then I'm not doing my job properly. So
100%.
if you give me ChatGPT feedback, or you give me bad feedback, make it pop, or other such variations of that, there's not a lot I can do with that. So I am going to ask to have a conversation with you, and then we need to have a conversation.
So, speaking of
Yeah.
that conversation, how do we then have that conversation, whether it's ChatGPT feedback, whether it's make it pop and just shitty generic stuff? What are some of the ways that you're kind of flipping that conversation on its head, Juliana?
Like, yeah, I think it's coming back to what I said. I think like it's making the person understand that you chose us for a reason, and I need you to trust the process. And I think it's being open, but it's to stay. We can always fall in that category. I'm trying to please is the customer. You don't want to go through them. You don't want to be like, what the hell you doing? Like, you don't know what you're doing. You have to remain calm. I think you'll have to remain precise, professional, targeted, and removed of emotions. Yes, it's like you said, like Emma, like if you disrespected like a little bit that like you're using ChatGPT, but I do think that once we come in on that angle, I feel disrespected, I feel offended, and then it's sort of the argument loses a little bit of emphasis. It shouldn't, but it does. So I think like whenever we approach the client, it's like, hey, I am going to tell you why A, B, C, D, E, blah, 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 leads to blah, 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 blah. And I think it's always like, here's what we are doing. Here's what you're suggesting. Here's the possible outcome from your suggestion. Okay? And then you compare. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we are suggesting. And here's the possible outcome we see. Now, ultimately, it is your decision. Ultimately, if you want to choose to use ChatGPT copy or ChatGPT like graphics, you will. There's nothing you can do. But I personally will not be shouting to the world like I do with every single client I have. I really push to be like, hey, we've done this. We are so proud. We evolved from this and this and that. I will not be shouting from the top of my lungs that like, yes, client ultimately decided to use those other tools. But you know what? I think like there's nothing really you can do other than be transparent and be open and have everything documented, which is a big deal for me. I used to have those loads of phone calls, and while I am very close to my clients, I love talking to them on the phone. Nowadays, feedback, anything that it is going to be implemented goes from me on an email, and then I follow up with a phone call. I follow up the phone call with an email. Becomes a little bit more bureaucratic, which is ultimately not what we are trying to do, but it's so necessary because even those make it pop comes back from the you literally can follow the feedback they gave 100% to the T, and it's still not popping. You're like, hey, but you did that. You said if I did that, it would pop. It's not. So yeah, definitely 100% that would be the way I would go about sort of tackling those situations.
Any like questions that you really like asking if you are doing some feedback and it's kind of make it pop? Like, is there anything that you're like, okay, make it pop. Here's the follow-up questions that need to happen.
Yeah, I want to say like first define pop. I think like to me it's just like, yeah, let's pop. Pop, but define pop. What is pop for you? And then I think that is really interesting because it gives me an insight of their perception of the word pop. And then they will say, oh, popping is when it makes me feel that way, or is when I think about something. And then from there, we can then like, right, okay, and we can open up the conversation from that. I think like I really also like to follow up with like, right, when you say pop, what do you want? What is the emotion? What is the feeling? What is what is it that you want the client, not you, the client, right? Because you're not designing your branding, you're not designing your website for you to like just, it's functional, it's for the client, okay? What is it that the client needs to feel whenever it's popping? And then I think that that's really interesting because it makes them think like, right, yeah, I really like pink, but my clients most likely are onto more earthy tones for whatever reason. So perhaps I shouldn't add pink because it goes against my brand, doesn't it? Yes, because it's not for you, it's for your client. So I like to follow up with that. Yeah.
Can I please tell the pink Stewart story?
Yes.
Yes. So this is
Let's
Make It Pop story. So our old CEO, they were redesigning the website and they redid the branding. So it kind of went from like blue and cream to like hot pink, purple and white. And so the person looking after the design wasn't the CEO, and they come to the CEO with the design. They've done all the rounds, blah, blah, blah. And the CEO's like, it's just a bit bland. Like there's nothing, popping. And bear in mind, there's like hot neon pink on the page. And the guy's like, I mean, there's like hot neon pink, Stuart. Like, what do you mean? And then Stuart's like, I'm red colorblind. Everything that was pink looked grey to him.
No.
So this is what make it pop could mean, right? Like someone's color.
No, I mean, isn't that so funny? That is why it's so important that people describe what pop is for them, because they might be colorblind in the end of the day and you might not even know.
Well, it's even that, and it's like, okay, just because you wouldn't paint your house neon pink doesn't mean we wouldn't do it for your website. Because in that case, our audience were HR people. So we had like a combination of, and we're a tech company, so we had a combination of quite subtle tones and then these bright colors that are brought in to really like emphasize certain parts in the design. And so it makes so for us it made perfect sense because our audience are like women of a certain age, of a certain, working in certain types of businesses. So for us, like, it completely married up right for the ICP. It was very funny though. And then afterwards, we would be designing decks with him, and he'd be like, "Can you just come sit next to me and make sure I haven't made this look horrific?"
No,
because I can't tell what colours I've chosen.
I know.
And I think just that level of, basically, I think also that level of like introspection, that's a great question. They're like, how will this make your audience feel is really important. I actually was doing a bit of work on my own consultancy website. And I was like, oh, who are my ICP? I've got my ICP. They're usually tech founders of a certain age, and the companies at a certain stage, and blah, 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 blah. And so, like, working with that and color theory and our friend ChatGPT, I was able to actually work out what colors I should use for my audience. Now, obviously, if you have the money, you can work with a designer who knows this stuff. But in my case, when it's build it and do it yourself, you know, there are tools available that can help you, I guess, question your own thinking, right? Like, you can go back and go, okay, I like this, but actually, is this right for my audience? That's a great use of ChatGPT.
Exactly. That's what I said. It isn't, ChatGPT isn't inherently bad. I think,
Yeah, it's just the way you use it.
I mean, it is fantastic. I mean, honestly, imagine, like, we can be so much more productive now, and it free us up for all of those creative, like, inspirations and thoughts. We are not bogged down thinking about the nitty-gritty, but it's just how you use it. And it's like I said, like you asked, would you like to follow up with the pop? It's that question. Hey, this is not for you. We are not designing to make sense for you. I mean, you need to like it, but is it going to speak to your client? Do you know your client? And that is another thing in marketing that I see all the time. A few of my customers, sometimes they have this huge misconception of like who their client actually are. Like, do you know what I mean? And you're like, no. Then you have to go back to like basic of basic. Like, describe your client to me, like from the time that they wake up to the time they go to bed. Who is your client? And they go on and on and on. And you're like, no, that's your ideal client. That's who you want your client to be. Let's look at the data and let me see, is that actually? And sometimes they go like, oh, my clients are like in their 20s and like they are very busy and they're like this, and then like we look at the data and they are in their 40s and they're moms, and then these are very different target, like. And then in marketing, I think it's so important. We have to do so much, don't we? We have like to guide the client. I feel like in marketing we are kind of guides, and like, yay, let's go here and let's go there and let's gently guide you. And I mean, I suppose it's fun. I enjoy it. Like, it's those moments you go like, oh wow, they actually don't really know. Let's help them. So I dig that. I like that.
Absolutely. So, to wrap up our episode, could you please tell us about some marketing gossip? So, something that you've seen that you love, something that annoys you. Obviously, we can't repeat Make It Pop, but something else.
I want to say something I love, actually. I don't know if you guys have been, like, I'm a huge fan of TikTok. No, oh my God. But do you know what? Can't do without it. Like, I find it's one of my favorite, like, social medias at the moment. And, I don't know if you guys saw that lady called Romeo. Did you guys see that? So wait until I tell you, right? So Romeo is this girl in America, and like she likes doing jingles. And her whole videos were like, I don't know, Pepsi Max, and like next video, right? So her whole page was like doing a lot of jingles for a lot of brands. And people started being like, hey, stop doing that for free. They were actually quite good. Stop doing them for free. And they kept tagging all the brands on the comments, and the brands were like liking and liking and liking. And next thing, here comes Dr. Pepper with the jingle Romeo actually had produced for them. And then I just thought that it was fascinating. I love when like the real world people actually get involved with like the really far removed. Do you know what I mean? Like they bridge that gap. So it did take them a while. So her video went viral. And people are like, Dr. Pepper, you're missing out on this. Dr. Pepper, you're missing out on that. Like, this is a fantastic opportunity. But we work in marketing. We know there are processes, right? They couldn't just like take that and off they go. And it took them a while, but they actually produced a whole advertisement, a campaign with her jingle. And it went insane because like people in like the audience was already expecting and wanting that. So Romeo did great. Dr. Pepper did great. I'm not a fan, but hey, it's a interesting marketing phenomenon happening at the moment.
Even if you don't like the jingle, like the story makes me like Dr. Pepper, even though I don't like Pepper, you know, I'm like, oh, that's really cool. You know, they taking this on, and
Yeah,
that's really
so
cool.
glad. I'm glad they listened to whoever it was on their marketing team that looks at the internet. You know, when you're like, thank fuck someone listened to someone, because you know, like these
social
things,
media managers,
literally social media managers, because like so often that stuff is ignored.
Yeah.
And then you try to, and then they'll try to like the brands will be like, oh, that's a really good idea. But then they'll try and like generate that themselves somehow and it just
Yeah.
doesn't work. And you're like, no, no, no. These things have to happen organically.
Yeah.
And then you join forces and it's this magical thing. And I think that's really cool. But I do love it when, when you feel like someone listened to, the social media manager at Dr. Pepper
I
going,
know
let's do this. Come on.
it's so exciting, like for the audience to
Yeah.
they feel like they have input. I think that that's absolutely genius. Like from a marketing perspective, absolutely genius. It involves the audience. It makes them feel heard. Like it gets something that is viral and then it turns into something that is even bigger. I mean, people like to hear about success stories because everybody was rooting for Romeo. So, like, I mean, it's an all-rounder perfect. And the jingle was actually deadly. It was actually really good. And another social media that I find it very funny is Duolingo. Duolingo has been around from the time I'm a child. And recently they've been going out with this like massive, like sort of social media posts and they are outrageous. And people actually use Duolingo. They are reminded to use Duolingo because of it. So definitely, I think having somebody in the company that listens to social media managers that like are closer to the actual end user, it's such like an asset, and more companies should do that. Like I think when you're very high up, you're so removed from your end user, and I think like social media managers are actually more in contact, so their feedback and input is very valuable. So there you go. Go check out
I
Romeo
agree.
and Dr. Pepper.
We're going to go and listen because, the original Dr. Pepper jingle's quite good. So Romeo and Better have done a good job. You don't know the original jingle?
Oh, I was just like,
Too
where
far
was that?
Guys, it's Dr. Pepper. What's the worst that could happen? You don't remember that?
No,
I think we're both too foreign to know the.
listen, Dr. Pepper wasn't a thing in Brazil. I'm from Brazil, by the way.
Okay. Yeah.
So we don't like Dr. Pepper.
Guys,
Yeah, no.
No, but you
that
know
was
what? Now that you sang, I understand why Romeo went that way because it's not very far off that. So
okay. I'm gonna go listen. I'm gonna go follow Romeo
Tell
right
us.
now. Tell her. I'll
do
tell you.
Well,
do
wonderful.
guys. It was an absolute pleasure, like to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Let's make loads of things pop together with like better feedback.
Let's make feedback pop.
Yeah,
There
let's
we
make
go.
the feedback pop. I'm gonna do my feedback form with bells and whistles and animations and
Yeah.
all that. That's popping for you, client.
Thank you so much, Juliana. This has been a very, very relatable conversation. I'm pretty sure any marketer that has done any work with anything will know what this feels like. And thank you for helping us kind of unpick it and figure out how we can get better feedback for us so we can actually make things pop the way people want them to pop.
Amazing, amazing, guys. Thank you so much for having me. An absolute pleasure. Come over to Belfast. Come over to East Belfast
We're
Business
coming.
Europe.
Yeah,
Like,
we're doing it.
please,
We need to do a summer trip.
that's it.
Yeah.
Please do. It's actually a deadly city and would be lovely to see you guys again. So all the best, and I'll see you soon. Before we go,